Two English nurses named Jane and Kathy are biking across the French countryside, and they must try to keep on rolling when an argument leads to a separation. And Kathy, she goes missing as has happened a few years before, and Jane must try to talk to the locals even though she doesn't speak the language. I'm John Renton with the Retro View and Soon the Darkness from 1970. An often forgotten cult classic that's actually pretty goddamn effective, pretty chilling, and a film that I encourage people to check out. It's available on Amazon Prime as of now and possibly a few other streaming services. I've heard of this, I've seen a couple clips, I've never seen the thing in full, and I decided to finish off Halloween by just watching a few older movies and just diving into shit that I never actually expected to watch. So this was directed by Robert F-U-E-S-T, Fuest, I don't actually know. He did the 1970s Wuthering Heights as well as The Devil's Rain. By the way, Wuthering Heights is being remade by Emerald Fennell late or early next year. So this was also written by Brian Clemens and Terry Nation. There was also what Terry Bradshaw wanted to call his own subgroup, possibly his own town, but he is nowhere near the level of insanity that Kim Basinger is. Fun fact, Kim Basinger actually bought her own town. I'm not kidding. So this features Pamela Franklin as Jane. Jane, you ignorant, can't finish that line. And Kathy, played by Michelle Dotrice. So Kathy is blonde, Jane is short-haired, and I do have to say, looking just at the late 60s, early 70s fashions, I'm amazed that the women actually ever had circulation below the waist, because those shorts were goddamn tight and insane. So they're just backpacking, bike riding, whatever you want to say, through the French countryside. And things seem great, but they're doing this kind of as a bit a way to unwind because their jobs are kind of stressing them out. Also, you can go on holiday because that's how they do things in civilized countries. And they happen upon some locals, including one guy named Paul, who's not Paul anymore. He's Super Paul, wearing sunglasses, driving a moped, and he seems to always be nearby, especially in the opening minutes of this. And there's also Claire Kelly as a schoolmistress and a few other characters, including the police officer, the gendarme, and I guess how you say it, John Nettleton. And you have a few other characters that maybe some people that you'll recognize depending on how many French films you've seen. But this is from some of the same production team that did the Avengers television show that actually kind of makes sense because it's well shot. It's actually very well shot. The music makes me think that some kind of inspirational sports drama is about to happen. That's what I tried to add lyrics to, despite the fact there's no lyrics. I did it horribly, but I always do it horribly because I can't carry a tune in a goddamn bucket to save my life. This is shot almost entirely in a French village called Prenavelion, however you say it. And yeah, so basically that's your spoiler-free premise. Kathy goes missing, Jane is trying to find her friend. That's pretty much it right there. So, Kathy really seems more the adventurous type and everything, wants to enjoy herself. We find out a little bit about this guy, Paul, who kind of reveals that a little bit later on that he academically investigated this one murder that happened of a young blonde woman, and this is it's told to Jane once she finds out that her friend is missing by a Miss Lascelles that this road has a very bad reputation. Very bad. Basically, women can go missing. And the thing is, you see how isolated this is. That's the thing. This is isolated horror done right. This is isolated suspense done right. While talking about their jobs, though, just before Kathy goes missing, before they have an argument, Kathy mentions, the baby died, just 1 day old. Do you think they feel anything? I mean, was that the reason they had to take the backpacking or the bike riding? Because they needed to take a leave because she was accused of doing something bad and not helping the kid properly? Kathy just wants to have a good time. Paul has followed him around, is nearby, and he is a little bit creepy, so I do wonder if he has some skeletons in his goddamn closet, too. But we never really find that out. So Kathy basically stays behind. And by the way, this is before cell phones. This is before really you could contact anybody via phone. They're in a foreign country and they separate. And it makes no sense. So Kathy basically stays behind, hangs up her fine washables and stuff like that in a wooded area that they just happen to be resting in. Jane takes off for this little cafe thing. And then Kathy is, she basically makes an error, and her bike is totally fucked up when she comes back after looking in the woods and everything, the nearby woods, and she ends up basically going missing. Kathy dies, by the way, just in case you didn't quite get that. And I know the guy, Mr. LaSalle, I called French Cletus because he was dressed in overalls and a goofy t-shirt, and Paul is helping Jane, and he actually is trying to help her because he wants to make sure this murder doesn't happen again, or he wants to atone for his own shit. Paul isn't the murderer, but they do a good enough job making you think he could be. So, there was another girl named Jana that was Dutch, and Jana, Jane, Paul even visited Jana's grave. There is a British woman named the schoolmistress, not the headmistress. Stop laughing. This is serious. Played by Claire Kelly. That I thought she might have actually been the killer because she's just a British transplant that just happens to be there and is living there and knows that this place is dangerous but keeps to herself. A red tile roof and everything. You could just stop on there if you get tired. By the way, this takes place all in the daytime and is actually pretty well done. Pretty tense, to be perfectly honest. So, Paul decides to check the woods while Jane stays back there and actually travels with the schoolmistress. And finds a bunch of stuff, finds the old bike underneath the old car and stuff like that, and notices there's a guy out there planting, crops and everything. He checks the trunk and finds something really weird. Finds something horrifying based on the music sting. Now, did he find Kathy's body and move it? Or what? Or did he find Kathy's body and then somebody else moved it a little bit later on? Because we never see what's in the trunk. So they have a strange barn. The LaSalle couple has a strange barn full of stuff, implying they might have possibly been in on it, helping the police hide stuff, because the main police officer, mustache guy as it were, seems to, kind of have them under his thumb, shall we say. Also, this whole area seems populated by like 10 people. But the blonde Dutch girl was struck, struck and then strangled. And Paul feels like it'll happen again. Also, he took some film out of Kathy's camera, implying that something could, on there could be evidence. Where are you going to go, by the way, to develop this, especially in this podunk place? Paul does let it slip that he was part of something in Paris. This is an awful long way from Paris, wherever the hell it is. And Jane wants it. Jane then ends up eventually running off when she suspects that Paul is responsible for this stuff. And to police headquarters. The Inspector Mustache guy basically goes to inspect, as inspectors are known to do because that's in the literal fucking name. And he's looking around for stuff. It's pretty obvious why he's looking around for stuff and why he knows the area so well, because it's the inspector. It's the inspector, by the way. There's a weird deaf guy from World War I that acts all weird that I don't know why they necessarily included him. I mean, I'm not saying he was an unnecessary character, but it was odd. And I know it could have been Mr. LaSalle, French Cletus, but it wasn't him. Paul is fixing his bike or his moped thing, by the way, because Jane tipped it over. And we haven't seen Kathy's body, so Kathy could very much be alive. She's not. And then Paul suddenly shows up looking for it. Now, mind you, Inspector Mustache has taken off and is doing what he's doing and looking around. And also, Paul has Kathy's bag. And the reason he has Kathy's bag is because he found something, but he uses a towel she had to lay on, busts through the glass, busts through the stuff, and is chasing after her. And they run into a weird trailer park area that just somehow manages to be within running distance, and that looks like the same area that they were at before. And she ends up finding Kathy conveniently in the closet of this random trailer she happens to hide in, so that's a bit weird. So her body could have been in the trunk, could have been put there. We're not necessarily certain. Paul then is chasing after her, is wondering where she is. She hits him with the rock, and that's it. So he's dead. So there you go. Then suddenly Inspector Mustache does something where he is hugging her, don't worry, it's fine, and he tries to put his hand on her butt, and apparently she actually really need him in the groin. Like, the actual take. And he needed like 10 minutes to recover. Good on her, by the way. Instinct. I mean, I don't blame her. But it looks like he's going to strangle her and take her out and this kind of stuff because the cop did it. Because the cop can get away with anything. Because Miss LaSalle warned, by the way, the police are bad here. So it turns out she was right. But Paul, by the way, is not dead. He ends up hitting the guy with a stick. And then, all right, that's it right there. It seems like everything's okay. Unless they were both accomplices. But that doesn't get mentioned. The cop is dead, seemingly. Despite the fact Paul seemingly got hit harder, he's okay, but the cop's dead. And we hear sirens, so seemingly either they're going to get medical treatment or take the cop and arrest him. Not sure. And we see two more girls bike riding along the road. And then do starts playing. And that is... And Soon the Darkness. That is not a bad movie at all. Pretty grim, in all honesty. There's no real explanation why, and I think that's why it makes it more chilling. The guy just felt he could get away with it. So, pretty good overall. Not great, but still pretty good. Agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Rentlund. Until we backpack and bike across the French countryside again with cell phones so we can call for help, happy trails to you.